At the height of steam on Britain's railways, the Pacific was the ideal design for high-speed express services, as its size meant it could accommodate a larger boiler for more power while not being too big for the country's restrictive loading gauge. The LMS, LNER and even Southern Railways had their own fleets of impressive Pacifics, which is why it's strange that the Great Western Railway, famous for its engineering, never built Pacifics themselves. But that almost wasn't the case. In 1908, the Great Western Railway built the first Pacific engine for use in Britain, number 111 the Great Bear. Designed by George Jackson Churchward, the design was promising on paper, but proved to be poor performing and problematic in service. As such, when Charles Collett replaced Churchward in 1922, he instead focused more on refining and improving the 460 designs of his predecessor, resulting in the Castle class and the Kings while the Bear was withdrawn. The Castles and Kings were some of the most powerful locomotives in the country, even able to outperform some of Nigel Gresley's record-breaking A1 Pacifics, and given the Great Western's general philosophy of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, there wasn't really much cause to pursue alternative locomotive designs. One man, however, seemed to have other ideas. Frederick Hawksworth had worked for the Great Western Railway since the age of 15, becoming an apprentice draftsman for Churchward in 1905 at the age of 22. He played a key part in the creation of the Great Bear and later on worked alongside William Stanier, who himself designed the Princess Royal and Princess Coronation locomotives for the LMS. It's believed that having worked for the GWR for so long and seeing the success his peers achieved with their own Pacific designs, Hawksworth was keen to give it a go himself. The only issue was it was 1941 by the time he became the Great Western's chief mechanical engineer. With a world war raging on, the railways had bigger priorities than passenger services, but that didn't mean a Pacific engine was entirely out of the question. As a result of the war, the high-quality Welsh coal that the Great Western relied on was in short supply, and as such many engines struggled to run using the lower-grade coal they were given. Many Western engines were converted to burn oil because of this, but this was only a temporary fix. What the railway needed was something that could reliably run on lower-grade coal, and that's where the Pacifics come in. Most Great Western engines with a 460 wheel arrangement had narrower fireboxes so they could fit in between the rear driving wheels. The Pacifics the other railways were using, however, had space for wider fireboxes thanks to their trailing wheels, allowing them to burn poorer coal with less of an issue. Records show that calculations for a wider firebox were made sometime in the 1940s, suggesting that this was something the railway was considering. So not only would a Great Western Pacific have made some sense to build at the time, but also would allow Hawksworth to achieve a possible lifetime ambition. Designs for a Pacific were drawn up too, the engine seemingly being based on a King class, having the same sized wheels and cylinders, a boiler capable of producing the same PSI, a larger firebox, and uniquely for a Great Western engine, a steam dome on the boiler. Interestingly, it's not really known who initiated the Pacific project. It's known Hawksworth had some interest in a Pacific, however some say that his chief draftsman, F.C. Mattingly, was the one to start the study without Hawksworth's involvement. With so little official documentation, it's hard to know for sure. Even if Hawksworth wanted to build a Pacific, however, the odds were fiercely stacked against him. Wartime austerity essentially forbade the production of new passenger locomotives. Oliver Bulleid only managed to get away with producing his Pacific engines by classifying them as mixed traffic machines, something Southern Railways was in dire need of at the time. The Great Western, on the other hand, wasn't struggling for mixed traffic engines, and so spending resources on a bigger express locomotive simply wasn't in anyone's best interests. The project was supposedly revived at the end of the war, but the poor state of the railways followed by nationalisation left little time for development past the planning stage. A proper plan was never proposed to the Great Western's board of directors, and any drawings made were eventually destroyed, hence why exact information on the engine is scarce. Whether Hawksworth truly had his heart set on getting this Pacific built will forever be a mystery, but the fact that some plans were put in place is something that hasn't been forgotten by railway enthusiasts. In fact, it's become somewhat of a fascination for modellers and fans of the Great Western Railway to design their own Pacific engines based on what little information is available. So much so that this fictional class of engines have been collectively dubbed the Cathedral class, based on a classification name that was floated around during the development of the King class. Whether or not the Cathedrals were an idle passion project or a serious consideration is something we'll never truly know, but the fact it was a genuine possibility has led to a lot of discussion and speculation in many railway circles. And I don't know about you, but even if none were ever built, there's a strange beauty about the Cathedrals living on as a fan favourite. Maybe Hawksworth was onto something after all. Subscribe for more.